Hello, hello, hello. We come to another evening of content. You guys see the moniker, right? Well, I ran across that phrase. This phrase, the non-practicing white people. I heard that, on full blast the other day, and I was like, "What does that mean?" So we can talk honestly tonight because this conversation online has gotten completely just twisted and all messed up about what it actually means and what people actually mean when they say what they say. See, everybody is arguing over this phrase, non practicing white. People yelling at each other, folks getting defensive, activists getting angry, white people feeling attacked, black people feeling unheard, and somewhere in the middle, the actual point got lost. So let me explain my position clearly as a black person, right? I understand why some black creators rejected that phrase altogether. History in this country has taught black people to be skeptical when white folks try to separate themselves from systems they still benefit from, right? The skepticism didn't come out of nowhere. It came from generations of promises, silence, avoidance, selective outrage, and comfort. I get all that. But I also think a lot of regular white people who genuinely want fairness are confused because what they're hearing sounds like you can never be good enough or you can never escape the guilt. You will always be spiritually attached to racism no matter what you do. And I don't think that framework builds a sustainable future either. So, tonight, I'm going to explain the distinction I think a lot of black people actually understand instinctively, even if social media doesn't say it very well. This is a difference between what I would call a practicing white person and a white person who genuinely stands for fairness and equality in practice. And no, this ain't about hating white people. This is about behavior, patterns, choices, values, and what energy you put into this world, right? So let me put this up.
Tara from Boston, just finishing up food deliveries today, and I wanted to check in and let y'all know about a term I saw on TikTok this week that I can't get over, and that is someone saying, I'm a non-practicing white person. So I think I might end up starting doing some videos where I play a joke character like Stephen Colbert, because this is one I do in my personal life, but I only do it when I have the right audience, and I'm very self-aware and teachable with it, and that's playing a practicing white person. I've started gathering things from going on to places where people are claiming they're a safe space for all women, and it's clearly only white women. And the first point I got is a white woman who's being challenged on the fact that she was talking about how it's only white women at the party, saying that she'd love to have black women, except she called them melanated people. So I wanted to check in. That's a practicing white person ignorant move, right? Not having any people of color friends, but referring to them as melanated. The melanated people can join me in dancing like a white girl anytime. So is that something I should add to my practicing white girl character? Also, this is asking for emotional effort, so I just want to cut the jokes for a second and say, you don't have to give me emotional effort if you don't want. Take this as a joke and scroll by. If you've given too many people emotional effort this week, use it as therapy and tell me to F off while you scroll. You can even do it in the comments or my DMs if you want. Because as white people, we gotta know that we take too much emotional effort, and I know I'm asking for it here. So if I don't have your informed, enthusiastic consent to ask and get an answer, tell me to screw. That's how I feel about emotional effort. If you do decide to answer, thank you. My comedy appreciates it. And I really do appreciate it. And let me know if there's any way I can pay you back. Keep being awesome. Hi from
I
Easty.
didn't invent the term non-practicing white. All I did was see a bunch of white people using it online, so I decided that I would define it in my own words. Based on the context that I've seen it used in and the information that I've seen about the individuals that use it, I figured a non-practicing white means somebody who doesn't practice in the culture of whiteness, which means they're not racist, they don't like to oppress people, they don't like to abuse their privilege for the wrong reasons. A non-practicing white person is somebody who is accepting of everybody around them, regardless of color, gender, nationality, anything like that. But after thinking about it for a while, right, I really don't even like the term non-practicing white because you guys aren't white. Nobody is white. White doesn't exist. White exists. No, duh, white exists. There's a fucking white car right there, another white car right there. So white definitely, another white car right there. White exists. But white people don't exist. The same way black people don't exist. So now I'm trying to find a new term that basically means the same thing but doesn't count you guys or call you guys white, put you under that classification, because the idea of whiteness is something that was created to perpetuate white supremacy. And we don't want to keep using that. We want to what the fuck is this? Is this dry skin? The fuck, my nigga? We're trying to deconstruct the idea of whiteness, the idea of blackness, all of that. You feel me? And get back to people actually knowing and celebrating their actual cultures. So yeah, you got any ideas on how to replace the term white and non-practicing white? Drop them in the comments right there. But I guess I'll just keep using non-practicing whites until I can figure out something to replace it. But I don't plan on continuing to call white people white people. I'm gonna call you guys people classified as white, or you're European Americans, something like that.
So we know that it's not non-white people's responsibility to check, correct, and call in white people, right? So when a fellow white person is trying to help you out and be like, hey, this is problematic, here's why, and you say, no, I would like to hear it from a non-white person, you are participating in white supremacy. Okay, we had to brush up on the basics before I got to the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes is non-practicing white is participating in white supremacy. That is blue bracelet bullshit, okay? Unless you have magically figured out how to peel off your skin or change the way you appear within the world, you are not a non-practicing white. You can be anti-racist, but how are you going to change the way you show up in the world? Just like with men, femmes cannot tell which man is the safe man, and many, many, many bad men call themselves good guys, nice guys. It is the same with white people. You are not a non-practicing white.
This one's for the woke white women, specifically the ones who refer to themselves as anti-white or formerly practicing white. Now, first of all, no hate. Love what you're doing over there. Keep deconstructing. But maybe another perspective. Now, I remember when I started seeing the term, non-practicing white woman or non-practicing white floating around TikTok, and I thought it was funny, kiki, whatever, the same as everybody else for a minute, but it really did start to bug me, and I couldn't figure out why until I realized it's giving blue bracelet. It's giving not all men. It's giving virtue signaling. Because see, the thing is, while I'm sure that was completely unintentional, we have to be realistic about our relationships with whiteness. And in that, two things are important to remember. Number one, whiteness is a social construct. That means whiteness at its core is not real. We know this. The second thing we have to remember, though, is that even though whiteness itself is made up, whiteness has the world in a chokehold, and there are very set rules for how society operates around whiteness. That's the reason that if I walk out of a store and a woke white woman, a non-practicing white woman walks out of a store and the alarm goes off, we know who they're going to look at first. Not because it makes any difference that my DNA decided I would have more melanin than she does, but because of society's rule. It's not how we want it to be. It's just the reality. A reality that you can't just pick and choose when you decide to participate in. Society is going to decide for you. You can't just put off your whiteness like a cloak. Now, you can lose the benefits of your whiteness if you piss off white society, but often, even that's not permanent. There have been so many serial killers, both male and female, who operated in their area, and then when things got hot or when their name got thrown around a little bit too much, they just relocated to another area because then, yet again, they were just another faceless named white person with white privilege. And personally, it's always rubbed me as kind of the I'm one of the good ones, or I understand why women choose the bear. But what do you mean I'm included in why they choose the bear? You can't separate yourself from a system that was built for you until that system is quite literally dismantled. Again, though, that was just some food for thought. Y'all are doing great. Keep deconstructing.
So we stop right there. This is where the conversation starts splitting in two different directions, right? Because I actually understand what they're trying to say here. A lot of Black people hear this phrase and think, hold on, you don't get to simply detach yourself from systems that historically benefited you just because you personally feel uncomfortable with racism. I get that. I understand that perspective. But where I think this conversation starts losing regular people is when it begins sounding like no matter what you do, your whiteness is permanently tied to moral suspicion. And that is where I think many people, or many good white people, start pulling away emotionally. So tonight, I just wanted to explain the distinction I think many Black folks already understand instinctively, but social media explains it terribly. The difference between what I call a practicing white person and somebody who consciously rejects those patterns and operates differently in the world. Now, what many Black people mean by practicing white people. Let me say this carefully, because I need people to hear me carefully. When many Black folks talk about somebody being white in the negative sense, they usually are not just talking about skin color. They're talking about a pattern of behavior tied to hierarchy, comfort, dismissal, entitlement, selective empathy, and protection of unequal systems. That's what a lot of us mean when we say somebody is practicing whiteness. Not liking rock music, being suburban, or speaking properly, or existing while white. That's internet bullshit. What many Black people actually mean is this: a practicing white person is somebody who only believes in fairness when it benefits them, gets uncomfortable the second race is discussed, dismisses Black concerns automatically, stereotypes minorities constantly, stays silent when racism happens around them, protects unequal systems because they personally benefit from them. That's the problem we have with the MAGA crowd right now. These 6 things. And once law and order only applied downward and never upward, right? And believes Black struggle is mostly self-inflicted. Black people have the victim mentality while ignoring historical context, and treats diversity, equity, and inclusion like a personal attack. That's what a lot of Black folks are reacting to. And to be honest, most Black people know the difference almost immediately. We know when somebody sees us as fully human. We know when somebody merely tolerates us while secretly believing we're beneath them. How do we know this? How do we know this? Because it shows up in patterns. Okay. Example number 1, the articulate trap. A practicing white person will sit there shocked that a Black person is intelligent, informed, calm, educated, and professional. Like they were shocked about Barack Obama. Barack Obama is the way Barack Obama is. You hear it in these little comments like, oh, you're so articulate. Oh, you don't sound ghetto at all. You're different from most Black people. Now they think they're complimenting you. But what they're really revealing is that somewhere deep in their mind, they expected less from you to begin with. See, when somebody truly sees Black people as fully human and equal, competent, competency doesn't surprise you. Professionalism doesn't shock you. Intelligence doesn't feel unexpected. Black people catch that immediately. We catch on immediately by the way you talk to us and the way you act around us, whether you're a practicing white person or a non-practicing white person. Because we've heard versions of this shit all of our lives. Example number 2, watch who they give empathy to. Another way we know, watch how somebody responds. A white person responds, or Hispanic or Asian or whatever. Watch how somebody responds when a black person gets mistreated versus when somebody white gets mistreated. A practicing white person will explain away obvious unfairness when it happens to black people. Maybe they were maybe they were resisting. George Floyd, he was a drug addict. He deserved to be on the ground. Oh, Alex Pretty, he was there with a gun. Oh, Renee Good, she really hit him with the car. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe they shouldn't have complained. Maybe they shouldn't have got in front of the cop. But suddenly, when unfairness hits somebody who they know, or it hits home, or it happens to them, now they have empathy. Empathy appears immediately. Now the system is broken. Now abuse of power matters. Now corruption matters when it affects them. Black folks notice that double standard really quick, because when somebody sees you as fully human, they don't require you to be perfect before deserving empathy or sympathy. That's one of the clearest telltale signs that we have if we know you have respect for a person of color. And let me say something else that a lot of black folks understand instinctively. You can feel when somebody is interacting with you as an equal human being versus when they're just managing you emotionally while quietly believing negative things underneath about you. You feel it in the surprise when you're competent, when you're smart. Because see, every time I hear Donald Trump says, oh, you're a low IQ person, every black person that he interacts with, he calls them a low IQ person. Every black woman that he interacts with, he calls them a low IQ person. That's just automatic off the top. That's how I know he doesn't have respect for black people. He's surprised when you're competent. The fear when you enter certain spaces. The assumptions about aggression. The different tone they use with you. The constant need to explain your own humanity. And the way grace gets extended differently depending on your race. That's why so many black people reject the idea that this conversation is all imaginary or exaggerated. I hate when people tell me, oh, you're just playing the victim. What the fuck are you talking about? Playing what victim? If any person tells me you're playing the victim, that tells me that you haven't done the work to understand the history in this country, and you haven't done the work to understand that the way I'm talking is not a victim mentality. It's just a fact of life for me. Okay? For me. Wait a minute, hold on. Oh, wait a minute. It's moved. Okay. Because we live the patterns, not just the headline. Now, here's where my position separates a little from some of the people in the video that you just saw. I absolutely believe white people can consciously reject those behaviors and operate differently in the world. Not through guilt, not through performative hashtag, not through self-hatred, but through consistent action, honesty, courage, fairness, and accountability. Okay? What many of us would call non-practicing white people. This is what I call non-practicing white people. And I need people to hear me say, just like many black people can recognize what I'm calling a practicing white person, that's a person who's racist. That's a person who's racist. That's a person who practices those stereotypes. They have all the stereotypes in the back of their head. Oh, I'm a black woman, so I'm an angry black woman all the time if I raise my voice. Oh, if I raise my voice, then I'm dangerous, or I live in the ghetto, or I'm uneducated. That's a practicing white person. This is a non-practicing white person, okay? There are white people who consciously move through the world who want to have a different world. And no, I'm not talking about somebody who posts black squares online, not somebody trying to collect diversity points, not somebody begging to be called one of the good ones. I'm talking about people whose values and behaviors consistently show fairness and humanity. What many of us would call a non-practicing white person is somebody who does not automatically assume that I'm inferior to them. That a person that speaks to me like I'm equal instead of a project or a threat. A person who can hear conversations about race without instantly becoming defensive. A person who challenges racial stereotypes in white spaces, even when it's uncomfortable. When you hear Granny say the word ninja, you'd speak to grandma and say, you know, I don't like that word. You may be my grandmother, but I don't like that word. Understands history without collapsing into guilt or denial. Does not require Black people to be perfect victims. Supports real opportunity and fairness. Does not weaponize colored blindness to silence us. And understands the equality means shared humanity, not racial hierarchy with new branding. That's the distinction that I'm making from a practicing white person to a non-practicing white person. And let me be honest, most Black people are not expecting perfection from white folks. We're not. We know people are shaped by the environment they grow up in. We know bias can exist in anybody. We know awkwardness happens. We know race conversations are uncomfortable. I get it. What matters is whether somebody is trying to honestly protect their comfort at all costs or somebody who's willing to be uncomfortable. Because a non-practicing white person, in the way I'm defining it, is not somebody pretending race doesn't matter. It's somebody who's consciously rejecting the harmful stereotypes and behaviors and assumptions that have been historically attached to whiteness in this country. That's why I keep saying this isn't about skin color itself. It's about what values you practice. And Black folks can usually tell the difference faster than a lot of people. Okay? Now, this may sound performative. Now, I already know what some white folks listening right now are thinking. I know what you're thinking. Hold on. Let me play.
You would call a non-practicing white. If you don't know what that means, stick around. I'll tell you. I'm not fucking racist. All right, I'm not racist.
Hold on. Why you won't jump?
Black, green, yellow, purple, blue, whatever. I don't care. It's stupid. All right. And like, I love Black people, and I'm super jealous of Black people. And I know that sounds stupid, but like, they're way cooler than me. So that does make me a little sad. But I try to be the best non-practicing white dude I can be and just try to spread the love. But basically, yeah, if you ever hear somebody say non-practicing white, it basically boils down to they're not a racist. They don't try to use or abuse any form of white privilege, which exists even if you're a broke ass from Appalachia like myself, you see. But just wanted to clear that up, man. Non-practicing white. We could use a better name, though. Like, so if you got a better name than non-practicing white, I'd love to hear it. It's just all I can really come up with, and it's what I've heard used before. But yeah, basically it just means you're a white guy, but you're not a fucking white guy. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I just saw this woman comment on this post about whatever issue, and she was giving her 2 cents, and she was like, well, you know, as a white person, non-practicing, of course. Oh, and let me just tell you, like, I'm gonna be using that. That's good. That's good. You know, I feel like we all individually hold these different demographic aspects, like, you know, gender, race, class, etc. But the ones that I really try not to, you know, perpetuate are my whiteness and my maleness. My gayness, on the other hand, that's another story. But the whiteness and the maleness, trash. Gotta go. Gotta go. And of course, I'm beyond aware that there is an unconscious part of that too that I will never really truly be able to get rid of, which, in terms of doing literally what I can, I will always talk shit about my whiteness and my maleness, especially in a time like now. Especially when the people in power, the people at the top, calling all the shots, are white men who hate anyone not male, and not white. Plus, shitting on these things that I should be proud of really seems to make them mad. Non-practicing white person. Wow. Wow. Excuse me while I literally go change my LinkedIn
What
headline.
is a non-practicing white? A non-practicing white is someone who understands that whiteness is a construct. It was created in the early 1900s. The Irish and the Italians came over to the United States and they weren't considered white. They were considered immigrants. And those whites that were already settlers here treated them extremely poorly. In order to solidify power, they created the construct of whiteness and created a sense of us and them. Color of one's skin being the differentiating factor that kept power in place. And so when someone says that they're a non-practicing white, it means that they understand the power structure and they choose to work against it. Whiteness is a caste system. It is a metric that measures power by the color of your skin. So if you choose not to lean into the privilege of whiteness, lean into the fact that you will be treated differently because of the color of your skin or because of how you choose to conduct your life. For example, Candace Owens, she has proximity to whiteness and she leans into that proximity to whiteness. Is she a black woman? Absolutely. But she uses up the privileges of whiteness, of the proximity of whiteness. And I understand the proximity of whiteness being someone who was brought up by 2 white women as a Haitian adoptee. Another great example is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a white woman, but she never leaned into the privileges of whiteness. She was able to identify the micro and macro aggressions put against black people and non-white people in general. A non-practicing white is a white identifying person who does not lean into their whiteness. They do not weaponize it. They do not utilize it for privileges. They understand that their privileges are inherent and given, and they use the power that they have because of their whiteness to better the world.
Look, we got a whole lot of racism in America right now, and people are just putting it to the forefront. So, to you white people who are actually not racist and who are attacking racism within your communities and trying to stop all of that, I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. Now, I'm not giving you an invite to the cookout, but I will bring you one dish of choice. Just one. Only one. I think we can come to an agreement that they can only have one. Yeah, one. Just one. However, if you do ask for chicken or turkey or anything like that, you only get one piece, so choose wisely. Now, I'm probably going to have to sneak it to you, and you did not get this food from me. So you know. You understand that? You get that? Okay, good. Now, if I bring you potato salad, y'all know where I'm going with this. If I see one motherfucking raisin in that potato salad after I give it to you, you will never get anything else from the cookout. Ever. Never. Ever. For the rest of your life. You understand? You get that? All right, good. I love y'all non-practicing whites. Y'all hear me? I love y'all. Keep that shit up.
Here are a list of things that people who are not non-practicing white say. Exhibit A. I guess I'm not white enough because I've never had any privileges that other people didn't have. That's number 1. And why it's so easy for practicing whites to say, I have not observed this, it's because they don't have the stress, they don't have the obligation to observe other cultures, the way that black people have to observe white culture in order to survive. We have to study it. We have to be able to code switch for it. We have to be able to assimilate into it. It is a privilege that you do not have to assimilate to another culture in order for you to survive, in order for you to get a job or thrive or feed your family. That alone is a huge privilege. Denying that you have a privilege as a white person makes you gleefully, blissfully, willfully ignorant of the world around you. correcting how BIPOC people dress, or correcting how BIPOC people eat, feeling that they have an authority on telling other people how to live, speak, and behave, or touching a BIPOC person without permission. Other BIPOC people generally don't do this, but for some reason, non-practicing whites will come up to a Black woman such as myself and try to touch our braids, our hair, without asking for permission, because there's this ingrained sense of, I have access to everything. And having a Black or brown friend does not relinquish harms. That is a key one. Being in proximity to a BIPOC person does not make you impervious to judgment. Understanding that if you have adopted a Black or brown child, if you have a Black or brown bestie, that does not mean that you're immediately anti-racist. And these are the things that non-practicing whites do not do. They shirk off colonization mentality. They shirk off the need to own, to have, to rebrand, to correct how other people live and breathe, and they allow people to exist in the way in which they choose to exist, while also not denying the hardships of others. It's very complex stuff. Follow me for more tips. Let me know if you want more.
So now I already know what some white folks listening right now are thinking, right? Y'all saying this still sounds performative. This sounds like another loyalty test. Sounds like I got to constantly prove myself forever. And honestly, that concern is real, because social media has turned a lot of this into performance theater, a lot of it. Some people absolutely do perform allyship publicly while privately believing all kinds of ugly shit. Some people memorize activist language but still treat Black people differently in real life. And Black folks notice that too. That's why I keep saying this cannot be about performance. A non-practicing white person, in the way I'm defining it, is not somebody desperately trying to look morally pure. It's somebody whose patterns consistently show fairness, and even when there's no audience. Okay? That's the difference. Not how many books did you post online? Did you say the exact thing that the activist said? Did you pass the internet purity test? No, I'm talking about how you treat people. Whether your empathy stays consistent, whether you challenge unfairness when it costs comfort, whether your standards apply equally, and whether people around you feel genuinely respected as human beings. That's not character. That's not performance. And honestly, most people can feel the difference between somebody performing a character and somebody who actually sees them as a full human. Let me play this.
I have been seeing comments only, so I guess this is new, where people are saying that they are non-practicing white people. And I'm just here to tell you that that absolves you of nothing. That eliminates your whiteness, none. It gets rid of inherent biases, none. It does not erase your privilege. It does not change any way that the world sees you. It's not a funny, cute little joke. Black people cannot be non-practicing Black people. Your skin color is on you. It is something that people see, and being able to joke around.
But you notice I said this is not about skin color, right? So we're going to see the opposition of why people don't like this phrase.
About being a non-practicing white person does not absolve you of your sins.
Hey, Black.
It's okay to be white and acknowledge that that comes with certain biases, that it comes with certain privileges, that you cannot move through this world as a white person without acknowledging that things are different for you. And I think that something that really hangs people up is that you can have an incredibly hard life and still be white. You just have to realize that the reason your life is hard is not because you are white. You are not a non-practicing white person. It does not exist. It inherently makes zero sense. I'm white, so I can't speak for other races, but I imagine it's insulting. And it's okay to just acknowledge that you're a white person that has to do the work. I think you're trying to say that, but it's not reading that way, at least for me. Have a good day.
This may be some white people shit. I've been seeing comments and posts like the last week or so about being a non-practicing white, and I really think we need to be careful with this language. I understand the intent is to show like allyship. However, I am concerned that it is a way to be like, not me, I'm one of the good ones, even if you're not actually doing the work. I'm kind of equating it to like the blue bracelet thing. So if you're gonna tell me you're a non-practicing white, my question to you is, are you actively working to dismantle systemic racism? If you are a teacher, what do your bookshelves look like? What do your lessons look like? Are you actively educating yourself? Who are you following on TikTok? Are you supporting Black and brown creators? Calling out racist family members? Are you speaking up in PD or staff meetings? Are you calling out microaggressions? Because at the end of the day, no matter what you say, we still have that privilege and we need to acknowledge and be aware of it. And I bet you're not walking into a job interview saying, hi, I'm a non-practicing white person. So again, I understand the intent of it, and it's like, okay, it's just like a funny little joke or whatever. I just think we need to be careful. And before you're saying something like this, like really reflect on your lifestyle. Because are you actually non-practicing? What does that mean to you? I'm really curious what other people think, so leave your thoughts in the comments.
You can't call yourself a non-practicing white and then get pissed the fuck off when a black person says that's not a thing. You can't call yourself a non-practicing white when all the motherfucking Klan members that are Trump supporters walking around everywhere in this country look just like me and you. It doesn't matter if you say you're non-practicing. Because you can throw it in a comment. You can say that shit on the internet. But when you're walking around, when I'm walking around, nobody can tell the fucking difference. This is just, in my opinion, another way to escape accountability as white people try to soothe ourselves by trying to step into this individualism and say, well, not me. 3 out of 5 white men, 1 out of 2 white women voted for this Klan shit. And yes, I'm a human being that happens to be white, but I also understand what that entails within the structure of society, within white supremacy, and I cannot escape that. I have to address it and then operate out of my humanity and not look for validation from these other communities outside of whiteness and be like, oh, I'm a good one, I promise. Because I've seen time and time again, especially the last couple days, white people on the left that are like, well, I'm trying my best to do something and I'm about to give up because apparently it's not good enough. What the fuck do you mean, give up? That's not an option. See, when shit gets hard, a lot of white people just aren't built for this shit. A lot of you want to return back to being comfortable. You want to go back into being quiet. You don't want to take accountability. You don't want to listen to and learn from other communities that are not white when they challenge you, when they challenge me. But you can't say, I'm a non-practicing white and lose your shit when somebody calls you out on whatever, because then you're just proving the point that you are indeed a practicing white.
Not to mention, non-practicing white as a phrase is entirely self-serving. If I identify myself that way in mixed race circles, I guarantee you it's not going to get me any credibility. All it's going to do is signal to the people who aren't white that I care more about being perceived in a good way than I care about their actual feelings and what they care about. Non-practicing white is entirely the bad version of virtue signaling. It's the equivalent of me joining a conversation about sexual harm and sexual violence with the phrase, not all men. When your demographic has predominantly been the aggressor in prejudice, bias, violence, and hate, You don't get to decide when you're a safe exception. I don't get to decide that I'm a safe exception. That's for other people to decide if they want to trust me. Stating that I'm a non-practicing white, what's not being said, the quiet part, is that I'm asking them to trust me based on nothing but my words. When I've given them no reason to trust me, and they have all this life experience, all these stories of times a white person has said they were trustworthy and proven they weren't.
As a white person, I feel really, really weird when I see other white people be like, I'm a non-practicing white. Because, like, I know it's supposed to be like, oh, you're not racist, you're not MAGA, and whatnot. But it also kind of seems like, oh, I'm not practicing of the privileges that come with being white, when you can't just, like, do that when you're white. Like, you can't just give up the privileges that come with being white. And I don't know, it just has weird vibes whenever I see it. Like, I understand that the intention behind it might be good, but it just is really weird to me.
And Black women have came on these apps and explained to you why you guys shouldn't say that, because you cannot distance yourself from whiteness. None of us can. I can't even distance myself from whiteness. You will always be racist. It's inherent. It's in the DNA. You can't distance from racism. You can't use that to say, all you have to do is say, I'm a non-practicing fascist person. You can say that, but you will never be able to distance yourself from whiteness. And that is why y'all's white feminism is dangerous, because it's rooted still in patriarchy, and it's not okay. Then the fact that you're justifying, arguing, defending, and explaining yourself by leaving multiple comments tells me, as a liberated facilitator, practitioner, teacher, student, that you have more work to do. So I would invite you to take my Recovering from White Feminism class that I'm offering in the fall, so that you can unpack why you think it's okay to go back and forth and not listen to Black women who are actually saying, please don't.
See, let me see this commentary. This right here is the emotional wall a lot of people are running into, because what these people are hearing is no matter what they do, their race itself remains morally suspicious forever. And whether some activists intend that or not, that it says ordinary people are interpreting this conversation maybe wrong or rightly, I don't know. Now, let me be clear about this. I do not think the answer is pretending history never happened. History happened. Black skepticism did not magically appear out of nowhere. Let's be clear. It came from generations of exclusion, silence, selective empathy, discrimination, broken promises, and systems that often protected white comfort over Black humanity. That part is real. But I also do not believe we can build a healthy future in this country by trapping people inside permanent racial moral identity forever. Because eventually people stop hearing take accountability and start hearing you are inherently contaminated. And I don't believe that. And once people emotionally reach that point, many people stop listening. That's why I keep trying to make this distinction. I'm not talking about skin color alone. I'm talking about practice. What values are you reinforcing daily? Do you practice fairness, equality, consistent empathy, honesty, courage, accountability? Or do you practice silence, stereotypes, selective empathy, hierarchy, and racial comfort politics? That is the distinction I am making. And honestly, a whole lot of Black people already understand exactly what I mean, even if we don't always use the same language online. Okay? How a non-practicing white person, how a white person can move in white spaces. This is how white people can move in white spaces. This right here is probably the most important part of the whole conversation that I'm going to have, because a lot of people say, well, what exactly do you want white people to do? All right, I'm going to tell you directly. I'm going to be very blunt with you. If you genuinely believe in fairness, one of the biggest responsibilities you have as a white person is how you move in spaces where Black people are not there. Black people are or either outnumbered, or Black people are uncomfortable or dismissed or being talked about instead of talked to. And let me explain why. Because There are conversations many Black people never hear, but we feel the consequences of them every day. The jokes, the stereotypes, the assumptions, the coded language. I'm not racist, but, and those people over there, the suspicion, the selective empathy, the fear-based narratives. A lot of that survives because too many people stay quiet to avoid tension and uncomfortability. So when I say speak in white spaces, I do not mean become self-righteous or start screaming at the top of your lungs to your uncle during Thanksgiving dinner, like auditioning for social media. I mean, learn how to calmly interpret and to interrupt harmful thinking before it hardens into belief. That's leadership. Number 2, in private, take the lead. In public, take the second chair. Now, this part is important because a lot of well-meaning white people accidentally make themselves the center of the whole conversation. Here's the balance. In private, white spaces, especially when practicing whiteness is happening, you take the lead. Meaning, don't wait for Black people to always carry the burden. Don't wait for somebody marginalized to walk into hostility alone. Don't force Black people to constantly defend their humanity in rooms where they already feel outnumbered. That's where your voice as a white person who's supposed to be a good white, non-practicing white person, this is when your voice carries the unique weight. That's where you challenge stereotypes, dismissiveness, racial fear-mongering, coded language, selective empathy, dehumanization. This is where you're supposed to speak up at. But in public spaces where Black voices are already present, you take the second chair, meaning you support, you back up, you amplify, you listen, you create room and space for them to express themselves. Don't interrupt Black people explaining their own experiences just because you're trying to prove how enlightened you are. Don't become the spokesperson for communities you don't belong to. Don't turn somebody else's lived experience into your performance piece. A non-practicing white person understands the difference between leadership in hostile spaces and dominance in shared spaces. That distinction matters very much so, because support does not mean control. Sometimes the most powerful thing a white ally can do publicly is listen seriously, reinforce fairness, validate humanity, and use their influence without making themselves the emotional center of the room. That balance right there, that's a whole lot of Black people who recognize a thing, and we respect that. Now, let me play this one last thing. Let me play this one last video, because I thought it was wild.
I have no doubt in my mind that the map's gonna pass. If y'all can give us less than 0 seats, you would do it.
Hello to you is hey.
Under the orders of somebody that said the Civil Rights Act was harmful to white people, that it caused reverse racism. RFK said that Black children are overfilled on antidepressants and that they need to be reparented on different forms, all of them. Pete Hegseth constantly brings Doug Wilson to the Pentagon to give a prayer service. Doug Wilson is the same pastor that said that slave owners were on strong spiritual ground. I don't have no belief in no morality on anybody that followed Donald Trump. If you wasn't with this map, you wouldn't be underneath this president. You wouldn't be in your party. You would stand up, you would stand against it, you would speak out about it. So as far as I'm concerned, if you here as one of these Trump Republicans, you already showed us who you are. You showed us what you want to do. And I believe the country as a whole is rebuking your party. Y'all are in a death spiral. That's why y'all have to redistrict. That's why y'all have to cheat. That's why Trump got to go to Texas and say he entitled to 5 more seats. It's because y'all know what y'all doing is abhorrent. We letting our people die in Iran. based on false pretense that Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent said ain't real. Y'all okay with all that, so I'm positive y'all gonna be okay with the maps. But the beautiful thing is, the children that y'all have made and the people that's younger than y'all don't support none of this racism that y'all want. The MAGA party is the last breath of the Confederacy, and I'll be happy to see millennials and Gen Z bury y'all. There will be no more of your party. The midterms gonna come, y'all gonna get wiped out. Trump gonna get dragged out of the White House, and I'ma love every second of it. Because y'all loved every second of the suffering that he caused to everybody in this country. And worldwide, we starve in Cuba. We bomb Nigeria. We holding Zimbabwe and Zambia hostage for their minerals. We don't want to give them aid support. The pro-lifers that say all life is special, y'all letting kids die of AIDS. What part of your Bible say that? Point out the scripture. I think everybody would love to see it. And we would love to see y'all in the midterms.
Shut up. So I'm going to conclude with this. Black people don't just automatically hate white people. And anybody telling you that is flattening a very complicated history into something lazy and dishonest. A lot of us are talking about systems, patterns, and generations of barriers that were built into this country. Housing, education, hiring, policing, wealth, and how those things still shape people's lives today, whether folks want to admit it or not. What many Black people are asking from white allies, white kins, white people who are sympathetic to Black people, we're not asking isn't performative guilt or fake sainthood, but awareness, honesty, and a willingness to challenge those systems in everyday spaces so equality isn't just something people talk about, but something very actively helping to build. It's a call for white people to fix problems in white spaces first. You gotta fix problems. White people gotta fix white problems in white spaces. Practicing whiteness protects comfort and silence. Non-practicing white people choose discomfort and correction so we can all have equality. So when that happens, trust will grow naturally through hashtag guilt, through consistent behavior, whatever that makes the world fairer for everyone. Black people notice who's actually doing the work in their own circle. That's what will move us forward in this country. I don't know what people thought, but people, good white people, if there's more good white people out there, we can turn whatever's going on in this country around. If there's good white people, if you're a conscious white person, if you actually want to change the trajectory of this country, everybody has to vote. And we definitely have to vote the crowd that's in there out right now, because they're not helping the everyday, ordinary American. Okay? So I'm saying the good white people, the non-practicing white people, non-practicing meaning you're not practicing racism. You're not practicing discrimination. You're not practicing something that will disenfranchise people of color. That's a non-practicing white person who's not a racist, who's not actively being racist, who's conscious that they have privilege, who's conscious that they're not a victim, who's conscious of the things that go on, conscious of the past, conscious of how important it is to know the past, conscious of how unfair the systems are. That's a non-practicing white person, a person who understands all of these things. So my whole point is, hopefully we run into more of those people, and we run into those people and they want a better world instead of what we have right now. So hopefully everybody hit the like button, please and thank you. I appreciate it. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. That's the whole point of this presentation, is that we just need non-practicing white people or practicing white people. We just need the help to turn this country around. And white supremacy and all that, we just got to be conscious of it and try to actively fight it every day. If you like the content, please hit the like, share, subscribe button, please and thank you. I'd appreciate you hitting the like, share, and subscribe. And I will be back. I will be back with some shorts and all that kind of stuff this weekend. But the next show I have is on Monday because, I'm not going to spend all my time on this damn internet. You know that. Not at 9 o'clock anyway. 10 o'clock anyway. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. I appreciate all of you guys. Please and thank you.